Welcome, everyone. This is the It's All Good Circle. I am Dr. Dream, and we're here on Labor Day evening, Monday, September the 1st. And I hope everyone had a really wonderful Labor Day weekend. I was saying just in the little entry room there as we were waiting to record that Stephanie and I spent the last 4 nights at a music event called music festival called Shangri-La. And it's been going on for 21 years. We're in Minnesota. And the band Wookie Foot, I don't know if you've heard of this band. It's got a very distinctive name, Wookie Foot, Wookiefoot. And very wonderful, upbeat music. And they're all about community and all about love and connection. And we just had an amazing time. I was saying before, so many hugs this weekend, and so many I love yous to people. You just see people and your eyes catch and you say, I love you, and you hug them, and then you keep walking to whatever spot you're going at the festival. And it was exciting. And Mark Murphy is the lead of this band Wookie Foot. And he's quite the character, and I knew next to nothing about it until this weekend. Um, and one of the things I really loved, there were all sorts of opportunities where there was some music around the campfire on Thursday night, and then there was a session where they just sort of bantered and played some music and everything. One of the things I love about him is he plays with words, and I love that because I like to play with words myself. And so one of the things about the weekend, he said, I think we should all, he said this Thursday night, he said, I think we should all stop adulting right now. And, so let's all just start kidding. And I was, was just like, that is so cool. Like, because we all get, this word adulting has, made its way into so much of our thought process and everything, and it's like, oh, look, we're adulting, here we are doing adult stuff. And so kind of the theme of the weekend for us became, we're kidding, we're just kidding. And I like it. I may not go back to adulting at all. I'm starting to think that it's completely overrated. um and then there's some lyrics I want to share from a couple of his songs. One is, we all get a second chance. It's called tomorrow. And I just freaking love that. It's just like, and it kind of goes along with not adulting, not taking things too seriously. We all get a second chance. It's called tomorrow. Don't get too caught up in anything today. Hey, if you feel like today didn't go the way you wanted it to, great. You've got another opportunity to play it out in the way you choose to play it out tomorrow. And so I was really loving that. And it's the ending of a particular song, but then at the campfire, we just all were singing that part of the song over and over and over again. It was just like, it was really fun. Okay. Another one of the lyrics that had an impact on me is, we may not have it all together. We may not have it all together, but together we can have it all. It's just not okay. And that's kind of what the It's All Good circle is about, is, bringing us all together, because between all of us, between the love and the support and the holding space for each other, and the wisdom presenters, and everything that this circle means, it's kind of that this could be sort of our theme statement. We may not have it all together, but together we can have it all. And I just, those two in particular really stuck with me. And plus, then, the statement of the weekend, I love you, one of my favorite statements of all time. And so I figured that I have the gallery view right now, and I'm looking at all of you are your names, and I just want you to know I love you. And it's not tied to anything other than just us, you, me, being here, being present. There's no mistakes about, how we connect and when we connect, and that we are connected. And this weekend, you guys know I'm always saying I love you, but this weekend really hit it home for me. And to see so many people in a place of just conscious connection. Everyone at this festival, it's like, welcome home, welcome home. Everyone said that, that was sort of the other catchphrase. They'd see you and they'd say, welcome home. And Stephanie and I were like, it's our first times here. And they're like, oh my gosh, come here. We love you. And they give us great big hugs and everything. And just, it's, I'm hoping that we passed out a lot of the wooden nickels. I still have 1,000 left that guide people to our website, itsallgood.com. And we gave away probably 100 or so of the carabiners that also say itsallgood.com. And I'm hoping that over the next few weeks, some of these folks make their way to It's All Good and show up in this circle and things like that.
See what we could find.
Be really special. Yes. So tonight is exciting for me. Every Monday is exciting. But tonight our wisdom presenter she's been a friend of mine for years. And I consider myself very fortunate to make that statement. I consider myself very blessed to call her my friend. And there have been times over the years that I have called her and said, hey, listen, help me out here, give me a little advice, give me, this or that. The other day, she was doing a live Facebook, and I was dealing with some stuff, in the community, just trying to figure out things, and I put it out there, and sure enough, I got a great message from her. Her name is Inanna Rae. She has an amazing story. And I've got a whole bio here, and I'm not going to read it. She'll clue us in on. I'm going to read some highlights. Spiritual counselor, intuitive, energy healer, multidimensional channel. She's also the founder and executive director of Meet Me in the Quantum Foundation. And you can find that organization and amazing products. I've got my copper little shot glass here that energizes and some fabulous products, and they do some great work. It's meetmeinthequantum.org. But she's gone through a lot in her life, and the title of her wisdom presentation for us is Consumed by the Flame. Stop resisting the fires in your life and be reborn from the ashes. And it's I like the title. I like where this has the potential of going, and it's not going to go anywhere unless I stop talking and introduce her. Inanna Rae, thank you so much for being here on the It's All Good Circle, and just so excited to have you share with all of us in this beautiful, energetic we've created and we're holding space for here.
He's gone. There he's back.
That was really wild. I was like, okay, nobody's talking. Oh my gosh, no one's moving. Okay, I think I'm fine. I have no
Sorry,
idea.
I'll grab myself. Technology and I just sometimes have an interesting relationship. We try to exist on the same, frequency and timeline, and sometimes we just, blow each other to different timelines and frequencies. So, but I did say thank you, Dr. Dream. It's an honor to be here. I very much value our relationship as well. When I was trying to when you asked me to be on this podcast initially, I was trying to come up with some kind of title. Oh, hit restart. I saw the message on your recording or oh no, it says, are we recording?
It's still recording, it says.
Okay, great. I was trying to come up with a title that could be fitting of the journey that I have experienced in this incarnation. And the only thing I could really come up with was like being burned alive. And so I'm thinking about, okay, burned alive doesn't necessarily sound like a good or an inspirational positive talk, but it can be, right? So what if you stop fighting the fire that are burning all around you? What if you actually surrendered to these flames and let them completely consume you so that you're not in a constant war, you're not in a constant battle, you're surrendering to the process, you're leaning in, and then all of a sudden you're reborn. And it's that surrendering and leaning in that allows you to become that even better, greater, more conscious, more aware version of yourself than who you were when you were too busy playing firefighter. Because it's way better to be a phoenix than it is a firefighter. And that was, kind of my journey. I am a walk-in soul. I actually kind of came out as that on your last with you, Dr. Dream. And that process took place in April. Although, like a lot of walk-ins, there was a back and forth and back and forth. And for those of you who aren't familiar, a walk-in soul, there's different types of walk-in souls, but basically it was, think of it like a tandem bicycle, where the higher frequency person was kind of hanging in the background and being a guide and a support system to the person who was the original soul in this lifetime. And then whenever she just couldn't do it anymore, I started taking over more and more, but I had to do a lot of work because, as we'll get into, her physical body, and it gets a little weird when I say my, our, just know we share cellular memory. So we share a lot, even though we are different souls. Um, there were a lot of illnesses I had to heal before I could actually walk in fully because the vessel could not hold my frequency. The physical body could not hold my frequency. And so, going back to that and that other, soul's name, her name was Leslie. And she was born into a very fundamental religion, one where women were certainly not allowed to have spiritual gifts. Women were not allowed to, in the more fundamental parts of it, cut their hair, wear makeup, have an opinion. They were meant to be submissive to their spouses, to their husbands. And so from an early age, I learned that the value of being female was so much less than the value of being male. And as I was doing my shadow work later on, I discovered that in my head, if I just would have been born male, life would have been so much easier. But no, I was born female. And so that created some issues along the way. And then my fundamental church would have embraced my spiritual gifts if I had been male, but because I was female, I was an Eve, a temptress, someone who could not be trusted. So it set up this whole belief that there was something, one, fundamentally wrong with me. But that extended beyond fundamentally wrong with me. It extended into actually bad or evil, which the foundation for autoimmune illnesses are what? Attacking oneself, autoimmune against you. And so if I were to sit here and list out the laundry list of, disease processes that existed inside this physical body, we could be here all night. But, the biggest ones were like multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, optic neuritis, mast cell activation, chronic mono of more than 15 years, bone marrow, a really rare bone marrow cancer that's autoimmune in nature, requiring blood transfusions and some chemotherapy drugs, not once, but twice. acetylcholine insufficiency syndrome, also known as myasthenia gravis, some heart issues. I mean, I could go on, but the bottom line is almost every single one of these things you're going to find, I'll go back to the immune system and I'll go back to autoimmune. So as you know, this lifetime progressed, and I'm going to just kind of jump into 2018. And 2018 was the year that everything shifted in a way that I, as Inanna, the walk-in, really started walking in. Because it's a transition, and it can be a single moment, but this one was a transition. In 2018, um, my then spouse, Scott, suffered a very severe traumatic brain injury, a hit to the head with a steel bar, and frontal lobe executive functioning. And that means personality, decision making. He, in a split second, went from, like a best friend and a spouse being filled with rage and violence and very abusive in a single moment. And that abuse and violence went on for about 2.5 years. Within that first 6 months, though, my then 11-year-old daughter was injured in a school bus crash, and the bus rolled. She also suffered a traumatic brain injury, as it were, along with some internal injuries and a broken shoulder. So, in a span of 6 months, I had not one, but two, core family members with traumatic brain injuries. And that's when the fires really to burn all around me. And I was just trying to figure out how to survive it, and put out the fires, put out the fires, out the fires. And it didn't matter what I did, the fires just got bigger and bigger and bigger because that's what happens. And so in 2019 is when I decided to change my name. That's when I really began to feel more of who I am as the walk-in to Inanna, and started to feel a disconnect from that prior lifetime. But again, the physical body was so weak and so sick, I could not get in permanently. And so I had to do a lot of healing, and that included losing 150 pounds in 6 months. There's no trace of like the MS, the optic neuritis, the RA, my blood work's all normal. There's no trace of any of that in my body. MRIs are clear, blood work is clear. No longer have any of the markings of the acetylcholine insufficiency syndrome, also known as seronegative myasthenia gravis. Markers for chronic mono are normal, bone marrow functioning is normal, no longer anemic, no longer going into anaphylaxis every day. And that's because the surrendering to the flame was what allowed me to actually step in as the walk-in. And that began what I'm going to call just the most magnificent journey of all. Just this journey of purpose and discovery and finding, who I was supposed to be all along. And it's been an amazing journey. And it's hard to quantify this to people that aren't walk-ins. How do you explain this? How do you explain, I'm not the OG soul that came into this body, right? I'm someone completely different, because you do feel a disconnect. You have the cellular memory, right? You have the cellular memory. And a lot of times we served as guides, or council members to that OG soul. So we were here for most of it, right? So we can have some observer perspective, but we don't feel it in the same way. It doesn't feel like when I look back at those memories, they don't feel like they're organically mine. It feels like something I watched on TV. Now, if I want to, just like I can get lost in a TV show, oh man, I had to break up with Game of Thrones. We're talking like on the floor fetal position trauma from a couple of those episodes, right? So I can do that. I can be the observer of this lifetime and go into those moments and feel everything as an empath and as an intuitive and as a healer, and I can find it and I can connect to it. But I can also step back and be the observer, giving me perspective that allowed for all this amazing transition to happen. And not everyone's going to be a walk-in. So I want to clarify, if you're going through something, it doesn't mean you're surrendering to the flame. For you means you're going to allow a walk-in, or you are a walk-in. I'm just sharing my part of this. So whenever I did fully complete the walk-in, which was April 19th of this year, I was able to truly start downloading some amazing quantum tech. And that was what Dr. Dream was showing you earlier. That's one of our little shot glasses, and it's fused with a lot of good stuff. Initially, we were charging the tech using several different pieces of equipment. So I have a scalar, not an EE system, but a different kind of scalar system, Rife machine, quantum field generator. I have a lot of cool gadgets, right? But then the quantum, when I fully downloaded it, I realized that I'm the quantum generator. It's me. So I changed the way I coded and charged everything. And so now we're even getting more amazing results because it's not through someone else's tech. It's happening through me as a conduit for that sixth dimensional plus energy that is coming down onto our planet. So I discovered this primarily with the what I'm calling the quantum med bed because I don't have another name. I guess I could call it anything I wanted. But basically what it does is it creates a space or think of like kind of like a portal for those higher frequency energies and beings to work on your body. And so we've been able to facilitate some amazing miracles and healing, emotional healing, physical healing, all of the above, just by opening up that space for those higher frequencies. And that's my role here. That's my job here as the walk-in, as the multidimensional channel is to be the facilitator to allow those energies to have that portal, that doorway, that access, that gateway, to not just Gaia, but those individuals on Gaia who are willing to receive these frequencies and who want them. So, kind of in a nutshell, a small version of that is, who I am. So I founded my nonprofit, meetmeinthequantum.org. And of the many things we do, we have quantum tech. I do coaching, mediumship, healing, multidimensional channel messages, coding. There's a lot of different things that we do. But as the nonprofit part, I serve in a much more specific capacity, and that is I work with individuals who have traumatic brain injuries, who have PTSD, who have domestic violence survivors, and those who are struggling with, sorry, I lost one of them. Domestic violence survivors, PTSD, traumatic brain injury, veterans. Sorry, veterans. And so I work, individually with these. My quota is full at the moment, so I can't take any more individual clients because it is very much a one-woman show. And about half my work week is in volunteerism. Um, so it is me doing this. I got certified in neuropsychotherapy, neuropsychotherapy for clinicians, neuropsychotherapy treatment tools, neuropsychotherapy of addiction, all to be able to fulfill this mission, even though primarily what I'm doing is operating from my own energy and from my own knowing and from my own channel. And that's what I do, and that's how I serve. The tech is being rolled out. And we sent Dr. Dream some for him to have some experience with it. He had a cool experience with his Jeep with it. It's intelligent technology. So that means that you can, give it instructions. And if, the alignment is right and the frequency is right, the tech can follow those instructions. That's how we work the med bed. He was actually able to get his Jeep operating using it. It is intelligent technology. That's the good news. I don't have to worry about it doing anything that it shouldn't because it's intelligent technology. I don't have to worry about somebody, so many modalities of healing can be sort of commandeered or twisted in some way, right? Well, this is intelligent technology. And so it's going to operate from that six plus dimensional beings anyway, from only a place of love and service. So that's the good news that I can share with that. So there's kind of the bio and the history, and now I'll move a little bit into the topic, which is what do you do whenever everywhere you look, there's flames? What do you do when you're surrounded by fire, right? And I study a lot of really great teachers. Let's say one of my first ones I ever studied was Louise Hay, of course, Dr. Wayne Dyer. I'm a huge Dr. Joe Dispenza fan, huge Greg Braden fan. I mean, these are all like the people I study a lot. It was Dr. Joe that really helped me understand how our physical bodies can get addicted to the biochemical hormones of stress. We are all running around in various levels of adrenal fatigue. We're running around with our adrenals shot. We're looking for that next hit of adrenaline or cortisol to get us out of bed in the morning. We need that crisis. We need that something, right, that can get us moving. And then we wonder why we're always on fire. It's because we become addicted to those biochemical, and I mean, our bodies are addicted to those biochemical hormones of stress. And if you need that to get motivated, you need that to get up, you need that to move, then, it's kind of what do you do whenever I can't get up without it? I have a dear friend who's been a friend since like middle school. And I use her as an example all the time, and she knows. And I say, I have watched this woman be on her deathbed more times than I can count. Like, I mean, in ICU, her colon is dead. She's, her blood sugar is like, I don't know, 700 from diabetes. And she's just like not even able to get out of bed. I've watched her literally be at the edge And then a crisis will come in. A crisis of someone that she loves will be in a car wreck, someone that she loves will be hurt, something will happen, right? All of a sudden, her body kicks in that innate knowledge. She's out of that hospital and she's going to rescue somebody. She's off to rescue somebody. She got that hit of those biochemical hormones. She got that hit of adrenaline. She got that hit of cortisol, and she is off. Dopamine, serotonin. We could throw a lot of these in here, but that's what's happening. And so a lot of times what we don't realize is we're fighting the fires because it makes us feel alive. We're fighting the fires out of habit. We're fighting the fires because we don't know what else to do. And it takes a tremendous amount of self-awareness to stop, to breathe, to be present, and to think, what can I do differently now? Okay, maybe I can't get out of bed today. Maybe I don't give in to this need for those biochemical hormones of stress. Maybe I just sit here. Maybe I work on healing, maybe I journal, maybe I listen to something. One of my biggest rules for myself is I have to listen to an hour every single day of something inspirational. I already listed off some of my favorite teachers. You usually guess it's going to be one of those people, right? But it can be anything, anyone. Reading, watching, whatever. You need an hour a day of spiritual food. You wouldn't think about getting up and going, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 months at a time without ever feeding your body. But we do it all the time with our soul, with our energy. We're feeding it crap. We're feeding it garbage. We're watching the news. We're listening to people complain. And then we wonder why we don't feel good. We wonder why we don't have peace in here. And it's because we're always having, those reflections of the fires burning around us. And if you don't have enough problems, don't worry. There are a lot of people around you that have problems that are willing to share. You can't find your own. Someone will give you some. They'll make it yours. They'll make it yours. Right? And so finding that moment to become self-aware enough to pause and recognize, and one of my favorite questions is this mine? This thing that's happening to me, is this mine? Is this my fire, right? Or is this something I'm taking on? Because one, it's going to meet that addiction for those biochemical hormones of stress. Two, it's going to give me a sense of purpose, especially those of us that, are in fields where we help people, right? Boy, that's tricky, tricky, tricky for us. And then we have to look at, taking the downtime to actually focus on our own wellness, our own well-being, and what it is that we need. That takes a tremendous amount of self-awareness to actually facilitate change. Once you're there and you realize, I'm not going to fight the fires anymore, I'm going to lean in, I'm going to surrender, I'm going to let the process unfold. I'm going to let myself go through this process. I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to allow myself to do what? To feel. See, what happens is the second something comes up, feelings are thoughts in motion in the body, Louise Hay 101, right? We get a thought, a feeling moving through our body. The feeling comes through and we go, oh God, I don't like that. Stop. It's scary. Stop, 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 stop. And we're trained to do this. Stop those feelings. Don't entertain them. What happens if we entertain them? What happens if instead of letting it get caught in a cycle in your brain, what happens if you actually sit with it for a moment? I had a client a couple weeks ago come in for a session and she was saying, she was having, thoughts that were just, in her opinion, very unhealthy and very, not productive for her. And I said, well, let's talk to that side of you. So we gave that part of her name. I believe we called her Maggie. I said, so what does Maggie want to say? Let's just let her talk, right? After she let Maggie talk for a few minutes, she realized Maggie wasn't saying at all what she thought. Maggie was saying, please hear me. I need to be heard. Because here's what happens. Maggie said, I'm unhappy. I'm unhappy at our job. I'm not happy. But you shut me down every time I try to tell you I'm unhappy at the job and you won't listen to me. And so then it takes a major crisis, right? You're going to get sick or you're going to get hurt. Something's going to happen. You're going to have to take off work. And then maybe you'll make a change. But what if we sat down and we had the two of you talk, you and Maggie, And you let her be heard. You let her speak. You honored her voice and her feelings because Maggie's the fire. Maggie's a flame. And by embracing Maggie and bringing her in, you're letting her be heard. And by the time we got to the end of this conversation, like the peace and the awareness my client had was so profound. It was just transcendental. It was amazing. And that technique will help because most of the time, things that you're looking around that you're thinking are fires are just parts of you longing to be heard, desperate to be heard and to be felt. Because we become so disconnected from our thoughts and our feelings that we would rather push them away and push them down and extinguish them like flames than sit with them, than be with them, than honor them. The only real path I know, as far as activation, ascension, raising your frequency is wholeness and holiness. Very, very similar words with very similar meanings. But the wholeness is where you let yourself be consumed by the flame. It's where you let yourself have these conversations with all the parts of you without judgment, without fear, without shutting it down. Think, wait, 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 you're making me uncomfortable. I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this. Why wouldn't you want to hear this part of you? This part of you is screaming to be heard, screaming to be honored, right? And most of the time, if you will give that part of you a voice, you will find out that that part of you was never your enemy, was never trying to hurt you or stop you or sabotage you. That part of you was only wanting to be heard. And that is being consumed by the flame. But we make ourselves go through so many steps to get there. We make ourselves, literally get to the edge of sanity, to the edge of whatever that looks like. So if that is, like losing my job because I'm not showing up, blowing up my relationship because I can't be present, if that is, destroying my health because I won't stop for 10 minutes and ask my body what it needs. We are so trained in this modern world to ignore those parts of us. They're inconvenient. Shut them down, shut them down, shut them down. We're told to not entertain those thoughts, right? Well, you know what? There may very well be a time where the answer is to don't go there, redirect yourself. In this moment, compartmentalize. We got to get through this moment. But when we're talking about healing and we're talking about activation and ascension, we're talking about wholeness and holiness. And we get there by shutting it down. We can't get there by extinguishing the flames. We can't get there by trying to put the flames out. The only way we get there is by surrendering, leaning in, and being consumed by the flame and letting ourselves be that holy flame of resurrection. In order to become who we are meant to be, we have to let who we thought we were go. And we can call that a spiritual, we can call that an ego death. We can call that whatever you want to call it. But understand that in order for you to be who you are supposed to be, you have to let the parts of you that you are not go. And fight isn't authentic. That isn't real. That isn't true. And that's why we are being trained and programmed by a false matrix to run from it. Why do you think we've all been made to be so afraid of fire? And I do agree, fire leaves a destructive path, especially on a 3D plane. But have you ever seen the aftermath? Like maybe a couple years after a wildfire goes through? It's like an entirely new part of Gaia has emerged. I'm from Oklahoma. We have wildfires and tornadoes and flash floods. We like all of them there. And I remember the first time I really saw that we had a lot of the state was on fire with wildfires, and it was very scary. And I don't spiritual bypass at all. It was very scary, and a lot of people suffered because of it. But let's go forward in the future and away from the suffering and away from the loss. It was like a rebirth of Gaia. You see all these places that were so thick with the undergrowth where they hadn't been tended to or, pruned and, there was, dead leaves and, dead trees and everything. It had all been cleared out. Everything that needed to be surrendered had been surrendered in Gaia's purge, leaving what was there to grow, what was there in restoration, what was there in expansion. And the throes of it, the throes of it can be incredibly painful, very discombobulating, very intense, uncomfortable. Pick a word. But if we can lean in and surrender and walk through it, what you get on the other side is authenticity, authentic life. What you get is the most real version of you that you will have ever experienced. What you get is a greater truth than you could have imagined. What you get is a walk in your own power you never could have imagined. What you get is real, and it is sacred, and it is holy. And it only comes when we let the parts of us die that need to die. And we let the parts of us be surrendered that need to be surrendered. And we're willing to be consumed by the flame, to be reborn from the ashes of something that is far more powerful, more authentic, more awake, more aware, more integrated, and more sacred than we ever could have imagined. And sometimes that purge, I'm going to tell you, it means letting relationships go. It means sometimes letting people go, letting a job go, letting a home that you've lived in for a long time, that doesn't work for you anymore, go. Sometimes it means letting, things go that you are so attached to, but you're attached out of comfort and familiarity. You're not attached out of attachment or love. You're attached because it's known. That's familiar. That thing over there, that's familiar. You know what that is, you know what to expect, and you're living in a very predictable little box because it's familiar. And what we're offering over here with this rebirth is complete unknown. It's completely unknown. It's uncharted territory. It can be scary. It can be, unfamiliar. It can be triggering. But isn't it better to lean in and experience a life of greatness, a healing beyond what you could imagine? Power to create whatever it is you desire in your life. Relationships that are healthy and whole and healing and symbiotic and good for you. A job that fits you, that you wake up every day and you're happy to go to, right? It's not like you're dragging ass to something you don't want to do. You don't get up and go, oh God, another Monday, right? This is a job. It's what I got to do. Got to pay the bills. What I propose to you is being consumed by the fire gives you the life you dared to dream. It gives you a chance to become who you are supposed to be, not just who you want to be, who you are meant to be, who you came here to be. Because you see, if you have that desire and it's floating around your mind right now, I want you to know there's already a timeline for it. It already exists for you. It already exists. But the you that lives there doesn't look like the you that lives here. Because the you that lives there embraced the flames. The you that lives there was consumed by holy flame, became the flame, and was reborn from the ashes, and let everything that wasn't authentically them go. Let it surrender and let it die. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it can be painful, and it can be very scary. It can be all of those things. But your greatness, your wholeness, your happiness, your healing, your joy, your power, your oneness, your singularity with with the field, all of it is just on the other side. So all you have to do is, stop trying to put out the damn flames and lean in and see what amazing miracles exist for you then. Okay, and I know we've We have about 15 minutes left, and I thought, is it if it's cool to open up to questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? Absolutely. Gail?
So, um, since obviously since I kind of came in after you had already started, um, there are times when I cannot figure out what it is that is the thing that I should be letting go of, and or that I would benefit from letting go of. It's not always clear. Sometimes it's crystal clear, but how do we see the things that are so close that we can't see them?
And that's a great question, and I always like to start with that first basic question of, is this mine? Because a lot of times the thing in the way isn't even mine. It's something I picked up from someone else. A belief system, let's use belief systems, right? We overall, do not understand the impact of the programming on this planet. If you haven't read, Edward Bernays, if you haven't read, oh my gosh, Virus of the Mind, Richard Brody. Please pick these books up, okay? And really start to understand, or Dr. Joe, really start to understand how much programming is on you from the moment you incarnate on this planet, because you are given a fully installed set of beliefs. Here you go. From your, from your religion to your culture to your hair color to your body to the school you grew up in. And so when something's too close like that, right? It's part of a program. Therefore, we have to figure out which program is impacting us. I talked in the beginning, and you might not have been here, about one of my early realizations was that if I would have just been born male, my life would have been significantly easier. And I was doing a technique. Julianne Cairns called it a brain dump. Lots of teachers. Basically, you just sit down and let whatever pops in your head come in, and it's, what is it I believe? What is it I believe about me? Blah, 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 blah. And if you do this right, listen, you're not done in an hour. It's like 3 days later, your hair is all like crazy and you're all like, you're all like just stressed to the max. And I was shocked, so shocked whenever the thing came out of my mouth. Because you'll get to this point in this process where you say the same thing again and again and again and again and again, right? It's after that. Don't stop. You're close. You're digging up the last when you get to the point that you have nothing else to say except that same thing again and again. And that's when the words popped out of my mouth. It would have been so much easier if I just would have been a boy. you know? And so I went to my mom, who's actually in the room, by the way, and I was asking her about it. 'Cause my baby book said, my dad said she's the most beautiful little girl I've ever seen. And actually, my dad said to the doctor, it had better be a boy. And the doctor said, no, this one's a girl. You can have a boy in 9 months. And my mom's like, by God, it will be him having a boy in 9 months, too, right? Do you see how that programmed on me? Right then, moment of birth. And it was reinforced by a fear-based religion that only, honored men, reinformed by those patriarchal relationships for men. So it wasn't until I could get past that programming that I could see what I really needed to do. And so, you might check out like that brain dump technique by Julianne Cairns, but the answer is going to lie in one of your programs. And that's why you can't see it. It's because it's a program that you've, assimilated your whole life that is already there. And you've got to dig deep and figure out which program is in the way. Is this mine? First question I always ask myself. Second question is, what program is giving me this belief? Because we won't question things that are part of a very solidly installed program. We won't question it. For example, here's one of my favorite ones is, we don't know really why our bodies age. You get a new body however many days. I'm sorry, I can't remember. You get a whole new body every like 7 days. And like some of your, like, is it your liver cells that take like 40 days to replenish or something?
Bones are like 6 months.
Yeah,
Most of the rest of it is between 7 and 3 months, seven
right.
days and 3 months.
Okay, yes. So my question to you is, why do we age then if we're getting a new body every, you know,
6 months
why?
at the outside.
6 months at the most, right? Why is it we age? It's because there's a program on this planet telling us we age. We've seen it now. I actually love being 50. I honor being 50. I can't wait till all of this is silver. I think it's the age of wisdom. I own it. I'm rocking it. I have no problem in the world with it. But with that being said, why do we age? And then why do people age differently than other people? And we could say, okay, there's all kinds of factors, right? There's genetics, there's environment, and yes, we can look at all of those, but at the end of the day, we're still in a program. At the end of the day, we're still in a program. If no one ever told us that at the magical age of 45, we would need readers, would we need readers? People existed a long time before glasses. And then all of a sudden, I worked for an optometrist in college, and he would always say, magical age of 45. And I just watched people pile in that door around age 45. Program. How many things in your body are you told cannot heal? I mean, the fact I don't have any lesions on my brain from MS, and the last time I had an MRI, there was six, right? So that's not supposed to go away. And yet it did. Went to a dentist like last year, and the guy was like, "You have 27 cavities, and you need like 3 root canals." And I'm like, "Oh no, I'll go fix about it, right?" So I did my thing. Went to a different dentist, by the way, but they did X-rays and they could show me about 6 weeks later, I had one tiny cavity. Now, I did have to have an extraction. She said that that's not supposed to happen. No
Yes,
one's
it
supposed to be
is.
able to lose 150 pounds in 6 months. 6 months. That's not supposed to happen, right? According to a program. So I'm big on programs, on identifying programs, seeing the programs, because the programs are telling you what you need to hold on to and what you need to let go. The programs are always running. And so, a brain dump is a great technique to figure out what program is running on me that is stopping me from seeing this clearly. Third technique I have is hey, spirit, take into account my stubbornness. Take into account my sometimes, like, oh, cat shiny, right? And I want you to make the answer so obvious and clear that it is glaring neon sign in my face that there's no way I can miss it. Do that for me, spirit. And somehow it always works. So those are the techniques I know.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. You follow up or no?
Next week.
Okay. All
Gotta
right.
try it.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have a question? Nope. Oh, yes. Okay. Both of you at the same time. So Sharon first, and then we'll go. Okay.
Not a question per se,
Oh,
but I love what you said about the authenticity because I recently learned this within my own journey. I thought it was love that would set me free. That's not what I learned, but it wasn't. It was the truth. And
yes.
so, what I learned recently that I didn't know, I was watching Pam Gregory, one of the great astrologists, and she said they recently did a test. So we know David Hawkins' power versus force.
Yes.
And so they actually put people in this Faraday cage and did the whole frequency testing, and they found that it was higher on the frequency scale was when people were being authentic.
Authentic. Yes.
So it wasn't like the empathy or the love or the understanding or everybody was getting along. It was when people could feel.
Yes.
And that was something that I learned through my injury.
Yes.
I can't really use my brain. I became the field, and so I can feel when people are being authentic. And I actually had the experience to witness people's soul kind of leave their body when they're not in the core of their truth. So, in a sense, they get entangled in the web of that
Yep.
program, and then
Yep.
I would see them come back. So, it's almost like they have to search for what's not them, and
That's
it
right.
disembodies them, which I think is the core of the autoimmune disease, right? So, I really love what you're saying. Thank you so much for
Oh, you're very
sharing your
welcome. My pleasure.
journey
Thank
with
you.
us. Yeah, I just wanted to add to that because
Thank you for adding. Yes,
the
I did actually see that too.
authenticity.
Authenticity is so important.
Yeah.
It's just so important. Yeah. Okay. Susan, is that right?
Yes. I also came in late, but just got energized by just what I heard you saying about brain dumps and the things that you do to keep reminding yourself every day. Every day, I have several um, spiritual practices that I do throughout the day. My writing is one of them. I'm really looking forward to listening to the replay to the first half of what I missed um because there is something that I there's some sort of disconnect that I'm experiencing, uh and I'm not, I'm allowing it to be, I'm allowing it to be whatever it is at this point. I'm not real clear on it, but I know that I will be, um, when I will be. And so I don't know. Thank you for being here and getting me all revved up for this second half of this program. And I haven't even heard the first half yet.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Yes, well, thank you. And I know we're at the time. So Dr. Dream, thank you so much for hosting this amazing group and the sacred space for everyone. And I'm very grateful to have been part of it. I'm very thankful.
Uh, I I love all of this. This has been fabulous. We do open it up at this time for any other questions for Inanna, or just to share what's going on, ask for support, advice, or just us to hold space for you. Anyone have anything in particular that they'd like to share, or any other questions for Inanna?
I have a question.
Go ahead,
Go
Phil.
ahead, Bill.
So, Inanna, my son-in-law is a locked-in quadriplegic. Locked in means he has a brain but cannot use his body. It happened from a stroke. Damian Wynn suggested that it's possible that Clayton is a walk-in. And so I'm fascinated when people talk about that. And normally people that talk about it know something about either themselves or something within whatever.
Right.
But with Clayton, we have no idea whether he could be or I guess if there was a question, how does one even approach that?
Meaning, given his condition.
Pardon?
You mean given his condition, how would you ascertain if he was a walk-in?
That's sort of my question is how is there a way for somebody to know, because they would have to be able to either tell you and Clayton cannot talk. He can answer yes or no questions, and he can type on a computer he can move his left thumb enough to control a computer switch. But Clayton talks about he's not from this earth.
Mm-hmm.
He's from a different earth.
Okay.
It's very similar,
okay,
but it's different. Many people are similar, but they're different. And he, has a story about all of this. And that's what sort of led my daughter to being, like open to, is that possible that he is a walk-in?
Right.
And that's kind of scary in its own for her, because that's her husband.
Right.
And so, maybe I'm kind of going around in circles, which I am, but it's fascinating. And any comments that you have as to what a person might do or look for or whatever.
Do I have permission to connect?
Say that again?
Have permission to connect?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and I'm going to channel this message, okay?
Mhm.
Meaning I'll be channeling my council. I'm part of it. So I speak first person, but we are a collective when I channel. So the term walk-in is not the term that we would actually use to describe the situation in which your son is experiencing. What we would choose to express this is he is experiencing multiple timelines in one incarnation. For example, he is more than one version of himself being expressed in the singular incarnation. So he can access parts of him that exist in other timelines, other dimensions, and even what we would, or what he is calling another Earth, while still maintaining some part of the human integrity from his original incarnation. The reason this is not a walk-in situation is because he is the same singular soul, but he is actually splitting himself via consciousness, most likely because his physical vessel has been compromised, across time, space, dimensions, and incarnations. This is allowing him access of his Akashic records in a way that will facilitate a greater understanding and bring in some of that higher frequency information. However, his original soul is still intact. Therefore, his connection to his family members is still intact. It may be impacted by the fact that he also has several other life expressions of himself through vertical time from other dimensions and timelines and even another Earth being expressed in the same time and place. However, he does not fit the definition as we consider it of being a walk-in. However, he does fit the definition of someone that is multiple incarnations being expressed in a single.
Cool.
Does that answer your question?
Thank you very much.
Okay, disconnect. Okay. Anyone else?
I have a question actually now.
Okay.
Thank you. Inanna, when I left my body, I saw a apparition with
Mhm.
my husband, and he saw it too. And so it felt like a skin, and it was a very negative experience, and I've not really come up from it. This happened in Texas in during the Hurricane Harvey,
Okay.
and I felt like it was artificially uh, imparted, if you will, onto my existence. I've had no support with it. I've been isolated for 9 years, and hence I'm reaching out to people. Um, I guess my question is there any way that you could address or guide me to find some help with stabilizing what I've been encountering? I've lost everyone I know, and I went through hell. People attacked me when I had my brain injury. So it was very traumatizing. And my mother's family is from Europe, and I found out that I came from sex trafficking. So it's been a lot to hold. However, I wrote a poem I felt was channeled by all that is about the mother wound. And I said in it, the starting word is, can you be the candle and the flame?
Nice.
So it
Yes.
feels like my journey was like I lost, I had the executive function thing, but it was like all the awareness of the programming, just I was in the field instantly and I stayed there for like years in the field. And it's kind of been this bouncing back and forth. So discombobulating for sure. But can you sense anything, fill into that, speak with your,
Yes.
yes, thank you.
So what happened is you fractured, your soul fractured and you split across, instead of, Clayton's experience is multiple coming in, right? You did the
Right.
opposite. You went out to a
Yeah,
lot of different places.
yeah.
And because you went to a lot of different places, you went to other, lifetimes and parallel lifetimes and whatever. All time is now. So when we talk about past
Yeah.
lives, future
I
lives,
got that message when I hit
yeah,
my all time
yeah.
now.
So you're experiencing multiple of your own incarnations, from a soul non-local in quantum physics and entanglement, tell us that doesn't matter how much time or space or distance, these two parts of you are, right? They're still connected. So we can have you now and you in, the year 2700, you in the year
Yes.
1360 BC, and it's all going to be right now because of quantum entanglement, right?
Yep.
non-local. And so what's happened is you are experiencing, because you fractured all of these lifetimes, but you're not whole in any one of the lifetimes. It's sort of like there's a piece of you on that you. They get like a backpack, right? So all these pieces of you fractured off. So you're the backpack on every other versions of you and all these lifetimes experiencing it. So the best way to even attempt to heal this would be to integrate those parts back, and I'm sure you've done some of this gently, slowly, calling all the parts of you back, but only after they've gone through like an energy cleansing. Almost like when you incarnate in this construct, right? Your memory's wiped.
Yep.
Well, most times they mess it up sometimes, but your memory's wiped because what you're experiencing, is basically a form of psychological or psychic warfare.
It has been.
Yes, it has been. And
Yeah.
so, number one, I would just
I'm
simply,
like breaking vessels now. Like
yeah,
glass bottles are just blowing tops off and flooding. And my house almost blew up a couple weeks ago. And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like, okay.
It is.
So,
So getting the parts of you clear and then getting them to reintegrate, right? And that's the part that, you will have to, facilitate because you're the only one who can do it. Right. But I would say
mhm.
the flame is definitely the way to do it. See
Yeah.
every one of these expressions as a different flame,
Okay.
and then integrate them one by one, not all at once, one by one, giving yourself permission and grace to be present with each one. Because what happened is you fractured,
Yeah,
into a
I'm
lot
clear
of
on that.
different expressions.
Yeah. Okay.
And getting all those parts back to is top on the list.
Yeah.
And whenever we have this happen, especially like to this extent, I always want to say, programming is real. And, sometimes it's really hard to understand what's a program being ran on us and what's an authentic experience. Because we know this,
Mhm.
because we can hook athletes up to, biofeedback equipment, right? And they can run the scenario in their heads and their bodies don't even know. I mean, or the brains don't even know if they're doing it for real or not, because it all reads the same. So when a program is heavily, installed and integrated within you, it reads the same. So we don't have to look for this, well, is this real? Of course it's real. You're experiencing it, it's real. That's the only validity here that matters, is your experiencing of it. So that's where the gaslighting comes in, right? From people. And they'll be like, well, that didn't happen. Well, if you're experiencing it, it happened somewhere. It might
Mhm.
not have happened in their life expression, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen for you. And so honor your experiences and what all of these fragments and fractures of your soul are out there going through, whether it's a program or another parallel life, past life, future life, whatever it is. See them as the flames and integrate them one by one through a purification process. Again, the fire is the purification. It can make everything, pure, clean, new. And as you allow the integration to happen, you will start to feel that wholeness again. And as you pull those parts back through purification, you won't feel the programs running on you anymore.
Mm. Thanks.
Okay, my heart is with you.
Yeah.
That's a difficult journey.
Yeah. I know. I know you know. Thank you.
I do. You're very welcome.
Anybody else have anything they want to share or ask a question about? It's a fabulous opportunity here.
Uh, I missed the first part. I didn't even know who you were or what you did, and but still felt really drawn when I did come in, and I don't even know what to ask. Are you going to be here next week?
I
Also?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I have to take life week by week right now.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you were programmed or if you were invited to be the speaker for next week as
Oh,
well.
no, no, I would be here as a guest next week.
Oh, I see. Well, my writing is my meditation, and still there's some, I've gone through 50 years of unraveling so much. And I don't even know how to put a name on it. Um, or question, because it feels like a disconnect from everything that I do that I do in my spiritual path. When I'm in it, it's I I feel it for whoever it is that I think I am anymore. Um, I don't know what the question is to ask. Uh,
I
can
collect
you?
writers, I have a lot of writers in my life. Seems to be one of my favorite collections are writers. And we'll say is anytime you are, someone with a creative channel and you're in the intuitive flow and you're letting that information comes through, it's sort of like turning on the water hose, after it has been unplugged, or the kitchen sink whenever, the water's been turned off to the house, and it goes sputter, 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 right? Until it cleans out everything in between. And that's when you get the flow. So whenever you're feeling the blockages, don't fight them. It's cleaning out the water hose, right? It's cleaning it out. And so it doesn't matter if you have to delete everything you've written down, because it is literally the ABCs. It is the itsy bitsy spider, right? The point is that you're keeping the water on and you're writing something, whether that's pen to paper or on a computer, however you choose to channel this information as a writer. But you're keeping it going, even if it is something that is not relevant at all. Even like I said, even if it's the ABCs, even if it's pick something, you're gonna write Wuthering Heights. You're just gonna copy and paste. I don't care. The idea is that it is the act, that tactile act, that gets the energy. Where'd you go? Oh, there you go. Okay, you moved on the screen. Sorry.
Oh,
I was making sure you were still here. It's that tactile act, keeping that channel open, right? That's going to allow all the air to get out of the water hose or out of the pipes so that you can feel that full flow again. But what happens is, especially writers, painters, artists, whatever, you get that first block and, oh my God, I'm blocked. Nothing is coming. Nothing is coming. Listen, I mean, in a different way, I do this too. When I will go in to do galleries for mediumship, I'll sit there and think, what if nobody shows up? That's never not happened. But I sit there and then I get in my own head. And then guess what? I can't hear anybody's loved ones in spirit because I've totally blocked myself because I didn't leave it open. I blocked, I turned off the spout over my fear, over my worry, over my what if, right? And so I've learned through time, and I coach enough writers to know this. It doesn't matter what you put pen to paper, doesn't matter what you type, you just keep typing. Even if it's something you're going to delete, you keep typing. Why? Because that is the only way to get that channel open. Same thing when I'm channeling information and I'm writing it down, there'll come moments where I lose it. Somebody will interrupt me, or like you said, someone who I think I am over here, right? But the moment, I remember, wait, I am this thing, you know, I'm a channel. You're a writer, you write. It's just who we are. There is no separation. The separation is an illusion. And all you have to do is keep the water hose on, the spout on long enough to remember that truth, and you'll feel it flow through you. It doesn't matter what you're writing in those moments, just write. Keep it going. Don't stop. Again, I don't care if you're copying down, a book, another book like Wuthering Heights, or, the ABCs. I don't care. It's that tactile act that keeps it open, that will allow you to go back to what is true. And that is the truth. Everything else is a lie. Okay.
I I do know that, and I listen to my writing. I go back and I read my writings. It's always been great advice to me. And my writing is my pep talks to me. And other people wind up benefiting from my pep talks to me, and which always is so pleasantly surprising to me. I don't find that I don't find that I'm getting blocked, but I don't know what it is. Uh, but when I'm in it and when I'm writing, it's like it is the truth. It is the truth of me, and it flows through me, and it's flowing through each of the trillions of cells in my body, and it's light. And I only write one a day, though. There's sort of like little paragraphs of insights that I get. Maybe
So
I
did
should
I
write more.
misunderstand the question then? 'Cause when I heard you say that you were distracted by who you thought you were supposed to be, I interpreted that as a blockage.
It's a there's a disconnect that I have
Okay.
when I'm not writing, and it's like maybe I should write more than one of these things a day. Sometimes I do, but I only put out one a day. Um,
Okay, well then that's an even easier answer
okay,
because yeah, because you have the idea that there's a separation between you as the writer and you as the person living. There's no separation. You're living your writing.
yeah,
Every action is writing. Every word is writing. Washing a dish is poetry. Doing the laundry is a story. And so when you can embrace these 3D actions, right? It's the 3D actions that get your body busy that allow you to even open your channel to deeper and more profound levels. Every breath, every breath is, a space of creation. Again, washing dishes, poetry, laundry, poetry. Walking the dog is a chapter. Don't forget that you are living, your inspiration is living this. There's not a you that writes and a you that doesn't. All of it is holy and sacred in writing. Just some goes to paper and some goes out into the universe as frequency. Both are information expressed through you. Apologize for misunderstanding the question,
I
but
didn't know.
someone else did it.
I didn't really pose a question. I just wanted to hear you say something to me.
Well, I hope it was good.
Thank you.
But your very breath is poetry, right? Like doing the dishes, poetry. There is no you that's a writer and you that's not. You are expressing information into the field. Sometimes that is through sitting down, pen to paper, hands on a keyboard. Other times that is washing a dish. Other times that's telling someone hi in the grocery store. But it's all you, and it's all putting information in the field as the writer. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Vienna.
That was poetic. Whew, thank you for that. My question is, and Dr. Dream, it was you saying this is a fabulous opportunity. I had a psychotic break, and it was spiritual in nature, and he went to hell and saved the whole world. He's God, and definitely has a very spiritual mission. He's holding space for people, so he doesn't have a 9 to 5 job. He's looking for the way that so and yet he has a story of being hit by a car when he was a child, and I was like, son, I would remember that. So when I hear you talking about different timelines, I'm wondering if that would be appropriate to check in, so I'm working with more understanding and journeying with him.
We have it's actually incredibly common right now. And I always preface this by saying, even though I have certifications, I'm not a mental health professional. I'm not giving mental health advice. I also only play a doctor on TV, not in real life. No, just, but I will give you my spiritual interpretation of this. And we're seeing a lot of it. A lot of it. It is actually prevalent right now to the point that it's common. And so it this can manifest in several different ways, and I'm not going to have the time to describe all of the ways. I'm going to be laser focused here on your son and not on other people that I know with examples of this happening to. And what I will say is, it's multifaceted, of course, right? One of them is that we are shifting right now. Everyone's heard the shift of 3D to 5D, right? And we have that doorway open between. And we always thought it was going to be we, the collective of Gaia, because you've heard everyone say it for years, the big solar flash bam, we all wake up in the new Earth. Nope. It's going to be the new, like the Pleiadians come in and they like lead us to the new Earth. Nope. Oh, Nope. It's this, right? So some people have a foot in this world, this 3D matrix. Some people have a foot in five, but it's not just, it's like 3.1, 3.01, 3.3, 3.3000, right? It's an unlimited number of expressions of life right now. And you don't have just 2 feet. You have an unlimited number of feet, right? So you can have a foot here and a foot there and a foot there and a foot there and a foot there and a foot there. And it's not really a soul fracture, but it really is an expression through the dimensions where you are living all of these realities concurrently. And so the people who find themselves having to go into the battle of good versus evil, right? Some part of them is stuck in that program, which is a 3D program of good versus evil. And that is their soul's journey into wholeness, right?
Mm.
That is their opportunity to feel the victory, to engage in a battle that maybe they can't understand or express or even know why they have to engage in it, but they do. It's part of their path, no one else's. And when
Mm.
they come out the other side of it, they will feel that victory and they will be willing to close the door to that at some point,
Mm.
right? So until that happens, right, they're deemed spiritual psychosis because we don't have any other understanding for this other than, it doesn't fit the paradigm of the 3D matrix that we presently live in. Okay.
Mhm.
All of that being said, we have people right now that are living in, more 5D expressions of life. They're happy, they're healthy, they're thriving, everything is going well. They are living conscious, powerful, creative lives. And then we have people that are literally living 3D and living their own hell right now. And we have everywhere in between, and you can literally be fluctuating like a roller coaster at this moment. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and then sideways, 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 sideways. Do that cha-cha slide to the left now, y'all. It's literally like that. Because the good news is the news, right? Is the good news is the news is that we're allowed to take this journey in a way that's authentic, organic, and works for us. And so for some people, it's going to involve, having multiple lifetimes, like Phil said, in one single, vessel. For some people, it's going to be more like Sharon, where she's, fractured across all these timelines. For people like your son, it's going to be, he's got just like 1,000 little feet in 1,000 different places, experiencing them. For people like me, it's going to be a walk-in situation. There's no right way to ascend. There's no right way for spiritual growth.
Mm.
It is highly and deeply personal, and whatever your soul needs to advance, as long as you're willing to do the work, as long as you're willing to continue on the path. It's only when we dig in and say, okay, I'm not moving from here. I did a gallery one time, which was mediumship, and there was a woman there whose son, adult son, who was like in his mid 30s, had died, and she had not moved from her spot in almost 10 years. She's like, I know God can give me my kid back, and by God, I'm not moving from here until he does. And I mean, this was in a crowd of like 50 people at my healing center. And I'm like literally going, okay, you guys better come up with something good. Because and of course her family brought her because I mean, she was doing nothing. I mean, she was still wearing the same 10 years later that were rags. She wasn't seeing anyone. She wasn't going to lunch. She wasn't talking to anyone. She was frozen in time because she knew that God could just, wave God's hand and give her son back. And by God, she wasn't moving from there. And I'll never forget what Spirit said I was like, oh, she's going to punch me in the face. Spirit said, you know what? You're right. God could. God, whether we see God as masculine, feminine, whatever we see God, the universe, the unified field, singularity, divine intelligence, whatever you see that is, you're right. That hand could wave and your son could be right here, right now. But it's been 10 years and that hasn't happened and it's not going to. And, this time, your son, I'm not coming back. It's my choice in spirit. So my
Mm.
question to you now is, what are you going to do? You're right, God could, but God didn't, and God's not gonna. So are you going to continue to dig in and sit right here and not move? What are you going to do? Right? And she had a choice to make. But at least way she knew in that moment, she was being told directly from spirit that yes, there was a timeline there where her son came back. We've all hopefully seen the Greg Braden video of the woman with, cancer at the Medicineless Hospital in Beijing, where you see that tumor disappear in real time. And they actually didn't make the tumor disappear at all. What they did is lifted her to a frequency where she never had the bladder cancer to begin with. Profound stuff. One of my favorite videos. So yes, guess what? She could have been lifted to a timeline where her son didn't die, and it didn't happen because the experiences we have and the interactions we have are really deeply personal and for us and only us. So this journey is for your son and for him, and the truth is you don't have to have a lot of understanding. You don't need to go there with him. All you
Yes.
need to do is be the container so that he can have the space to process it. So when he's ready to come out and integrate, there's a place for him to do so.
So the best support is just to be there, listen when he wants to talk. Anything else?
The container. So one of the things that, for those who weren't in the beginning, we talked about is my ex-spouse suffered a very severe traumatic brain injury in 2018. And along with that, he has dementia. So his brain is atrophying, and he has the frontal lobe is atrophying faster than the rest of the brain, which creates some issues similar to, well, the Bruce Willis thing just came out and everyone's been talking about it. It's similar in some ways, but my husband's actually way worse off than him. And is in a facility right now for individuals with dementia. It's his path, and I honor it. He is my ex. But where I'm going to go is this: because he lives in his own world, it's not my job to correct him. He lives in the past. He still thinks that we're married and our kids are teenagers. Now, in the beginning, I would remind him we're not together. The kids are grown, right? Because I felt like he needed to live in what reality was. Trying to pull him in reality. What's reality anyway? What's reality? It's just what your consciousness is bringing in and assimilating. And so through working with, getting my certifications and in neuropsychotherapy and working with some of the best, specialists for traumatic brain injury and dementia, and then, doing some studying as well. The consensus is let them live in their world. Stop trying to pull them into yours. Their world is just as valid for them as your world is for you. Let them have their experiences as long as, again, they're not hurting anyone, they're not hurting themselves. Let them have their experiences because that's their journey. Don't violate someone's journey. Like I tend to be a rescuer and I want to rescue everybody and save them. You tell me a problem, I'm going to give you 14 ways to fix it, before we even get to commercial break. And, one day it dawned on me that, holy shit, like I am literally stopping people from finding their own way because I'm constantly trying to fix it for them so they don't have to struggle or suffer. But just like the butterfly and the chrysalis, without a struggle, when you get out, the wings don't work. So honor the journey and honor the reality and trust that he'll find his way, but only when he's ready and only because he has a container in which to walk this reality he's in. And when he's done, he can come out the other side and there'll be a container for him that's safe and non-judgmental that he can step into. That's a completely different reality.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. My honor.
Wow.
Anyone?
What a fascinating experience we've all had with you this evening, Inanna. I thank you for all of the places that this has gone. I know that it's been valuable on so many levels. And I want to thank everyone for being here this evening. We will be back next Monday. We don't have a announcement yet about what we'll be doing specifically next week, but it'll be coming together here shortly. I want to thank everyone for being here on the It's All Good Circle. And again, I started off in the introduction saying how much.
There you are.
There I am. Oh my goodness. Really having some issues tonight. I have no
apologies.
I have no clue. What I was doing was expressing a lot of gratitude and moving into the closing of how I started the broadcast tonight, which was sharing so much love. And it's the perfect way to close it. I love you all very much. It's all good. Remember, everyone's got a second chance, and that is known as tomorrow. And just be good to yourselves and take care of yourselves and take care of the people around you, and tell some strangers this week that you love them, because no one's really strangers. Thank you all very much for being here. I apologize for the technical stuff. Thank you, Inanna Rae. Love you all so much. Have a really wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you.
Love
Thank
you.
you. Love you.